Greetings, petrolheads! Welcome back to Automation and Car Company Tycoon Game. This week I'm going to be reviewing the entries I've gotten for the community challenge, and the theme was basically to build a 17 or 18 year old's first car, and then also make a revision of how you would be able to tune it on a realistic budget. So we gotten 6 valid entries. I was sort of hoping for a little bit more, but on the other hand, I will be able to review all 6 of these within this week, and once I'm done, there will be a straw poll for you guys to vote for your personal favorite. So we got the AAG Scorpio by James Brown. We got the ZG Motors H16 by Zachary Gardner. We got the SGN Model 18 by Slacks. We got base model 1995 by Musty Man Guy. Yep, that was him. We got the base, yeah, that was the one I last mentioned. The obviously Tonka Truck by Donovan Chapman, and we got the Luxor by, what was his preferred name? Text the Master is his Steam name, which he preferred me to use here. The JCMBSC by LM Gamer, aka Aston Man. That one, unfortunately, I cannot accept. I told you in the email, though, I replied like the same day you sent it in. The capacity limit was 2.5 liters and you have a 3 liter engine. And you know, that may seem a little bit picky, but I got a friend of mine who used to have a 1996 Pontiac Firebird, and with the 3.8 liter V6, and when he got it, the body was perfectly in shape and whatnot, but after just half a year or maybe 1 year that he's had it, the body wasn't so fine anymore. Let's just leave it at that. Mainly because that car had 170 horsepower, which is, the sort of range that these cars are going to be in. And it was rear-wheel drive with no traction control, and traction and stability control just wasn't on the market yet, or at least it wasn't popular. Long story short, we're going to start with the AAG Scorpio here, and the GLX is the stock version. It is a sort of 80s-esque design. He stated that in his email. He stated that looks are kind of outdated by 1980, or at least a little bit old anyway. But it looks classic in today's age. It looks good. It looks all right. It fits this body shape, I think, and also the rear end, simple but also nice in my opinion. So let's look at this. This is very helpful for a quick overview. So we got steel corrosion-resistant steel monocoque and panels. We got all-wheel drive. We got a 5-speed gearbox, double wishbones up front, and semi-trailing arm in the rear. Overall, a pretty light car at just 1,100 kilograms. 130 horsepower from a 2.5 liter aluminium inline 6 with 24 valves and multi-point EFI. So that's the quick rundown of what it's got. The torque curve looks very nice and even, very predictable. But obviously more interesting is maybe not necessarily this type, but I'm also interested in this. 195's front and rear is reasonable for this kind of power. Vented discs front and rear as well. It's pretty high standard for a budget car, but it's good. It works. It works well, in fact. The wing angles don't matter anyway because we don't have any aerodynamic fixtures. We got 4 seats, standard interior and standard cassette with a standard safety pack as well. There is traction control on this one. That's interesting, especially because I just mentioned the story with the Pontiac Firebird. Progressive springs, gas monotube dampers. Yeah, pretty normal settings here. More rear camber and less front camber than normal, but that makes for a little bit more sportiness, and that's good. So the tuned version is the one that counts more, because obviously, like, yeah, there's one more thing I forgot to actually 2 more things that I forgot to check. Firstly, it is cheap enough. Okay, that was the one thing, and then the second thing is running costs are so low on this one. $1,783. That's nothing. Economy is also really good. Like, can't really seem to find a weak spot on this thing. Yeah, even the acceleration, like 8.2 seconds as your first car, is enough. And obviously, a good base car makes for a great foundation for a good tuned car, right? And on that aspect, let's go to the tuned car. Let's see what has changed here. Also, there is a bug that I've noticed in this build. I've noticed it on my own reference car when I introduced the challenge as well, which is that when you create trims and change the year on the second one, sometimes it'll automatically choose luxury, infotainment, and advanced safety, even though you didn't select those. On this one, it's fine. It didn't do it. So let's see about the main stats here. The car is now heavier, which is just a result of the fact that the game is now calculating with standard 2016 infotainment, which is a lot more than standard 1990 entertainment. And also interior is heavier these days, and the safety as well. Yeah, so it weighs almost 300 kilograms more. That's probably not what it would. That's probably not realistic either, but it's the same for everyone, so let's keep it this way. The gearbox hasn't changed, which is good. Hard long off-road tires, these are the same still. Alloy rims. And brakes are also... Actually, there's just a small amount of brake fade. Cooling airflow is exactly the same. This is still the same, of course. We now got standard springs, so for a little bit more sporty feel, and semi-active sway bars. Also lots of rear camber. And a very actually positive, an actual positive front camber. Apparently it would otherwise oversteer. Yeah. So 6.9. Oh, there's actually one thing I had to do here, is that because you changed the red line from 6,000 RPM to 7,500 between those two engines, which is a lot and technically more than I allowed, but I'll let you pass for this time. But you know, I'm gonna, in my theoretical construct of rules that I haven't written anywhere, and there's also no calculations for them, I'll be subtracting a couple of points there, because I said you can change the red line slightly by like 500 RPMs at max, but you changed it by 1500 RPMs, and therefore the top speed was geared to a lot more, and I set it back down to where it was with the GLX version. Therefore, this very short gearing with the all-wheel drive will result in a pretty great acceleration time, 8.9 seconds. And it's not like you really need those revs to make your power, because like you see the stock engine was redlining at 6,000, so 500 RPM more would be 6,500, would still have 182 horsepower. That would still be fine, right? So yeah, that increased redline will have a negative impact on your score, but overall I still have to say this is a very well balanced car. Running costs are still very low, still below $2,000, and that is like, obviously running costs are one of the big factors in this challenge, because when you're young and you get your first car and you're excited about it, obviously the last thing you want is it being unaffordable, and so you have to sell it again. And yeah, therefore a very nice entry here, the AAG Scorpio. Also, if I hadn't shown you this before, it's still well within the budget as its tuned form, and that launched and that significantly increased redline is gonna that's gonna lower your score that isn't calculated by anything, but I will definitely keep that in mind. But still, overall, it's a very good car. So next up, what we have is the ZG Motors H16 by Zachary Gardner. It's a 2.3 liter inline six. We can already see that. Okay. So let's go to this right here. It has steel monocoque and panels, has rear-wheel drive. It is a four-door saloon this time, not a coupe like the AAG that we've just seen. 4-speed gearbox, McPherson's up front, multi-link in the back. A 2.3 liter inline six that only revs to 5,600 RPM, and it has a single overhead cam apparently. Well, let's take a look at it anyway. The car overall is also about 150-160 kilograms heavier than the AAG. So we get cast crank and conrods, forged pistons, plus 3 quality in here. Cam profile of 67 is pretty high, especially considering the very low redline. Well, those are two values that don't go well together. It is naturally aspirated, has single point EFI, running on super unleaded fuel, and then it has a very high fuel mixture, a pretty rich fuel mixture, high ignition timing, low RPM limit, long turbo headers. Yeah, I'm just gonna say you could have done better on the engine. Like, sincerely, 67 cam profile doesn't go well with this low of an RPM limit. But then probably, yeah, the cast internals make it so you can't really afford to go any higher because they can take more RPMs. Well, I saw some positive equality in some of the engine parts, so there is some potential to save costs, which you can then use with better internals. We get a 4-speed gearbox, 195s all around, hard long life road tires, solid discs front and rear with a good amount of brake fade, which is actually a bad amount of brake fade. Seats are basic cassette, basic safety. It's not a very well equipped car, and then standard springs, 2-inch dampers and passive sway bars. And this at least looks decently nice, like pretty nice at least. Well balanced between sportiness and drivability. Nothing too fancy there. The looks with these headlights, I think, are a little bit more, late 90s, early 2000s with the details here. But let's not get bent out of shape because of that one. It is still within the budget, so that's good. But the economy and the running costs in total are very high. Very high. The economy is the fuel consumption is very high, I should say. Let's see, maybe it can compensate for it by accelerating very quickly. No, it can't. 11.5 seconds, 0 to 100. It's not really what you'd be expecting from an inline 6 with 157 horsepower. I mean, take for example, at that point the BMW 3 Series was like the E36, and 157 horsepower is pretty comparable to the 150 from the 320i, and that did 0 to 100 in 9 seconds. This takes 11.5. So that is a noticeable difference for sure. However, maybe the tuned version will do better. Let's check this for now first. Interior is not standard. The interior was always basic, and the safety was also basic. So let's change that back. Markets. It's at 10,600 now. Okay. It now has 166 horsepower, which is not much more than before. More cam profile. Still single point EFI, of course. 6,400 RPMs. What is this? We get a direct acting OHC. That is probably what's causing these problems. No VVL, only 2 valves per cylinder, no VVT either. Yeah, it's hard to make these things work. Okay, this is still river drive, right? Yeah. Wait, this is an automatic now. Wasn't the base one a manual? Yeah. So this is the first time I noticed this. So unfortunately, like, it was stated in the rules that you can't change the gearbox, which also means you can't go from a manual to an automatic. And if that wasn't clear before, so unfortunately now I have to disqualify you. But also keep in mind that it probably wasn't gonna win anyway. because the criteria are, of course, not only the main stats, but the priority is going to be on things like running costs, mainly the performance and overall how much the car has improved by tuning. And this one actually, wait, let's go back to the base. Yeah. So this one actually got worse in economy and in performance, but it did gain some drivability, some comfort. Yeah, but unfortunately I have to disqualify you anyway because you can't change from manual to automatic transmission. So, not looking that good so far. We only have one contender so far that is gonna make it into the quote-unquote finals, or into the straw poll anyway, where we're gonna determine the winner, and that is the AAG Scorpio by James Brown, and it is a pretty good benchmark. So we're gonna see how the others are gonna stack up. Unfortunately, the ZG Motors H16 and the JCM BSC are disqualified. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Automation. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.